I knew a lot about every country, and I had it narrowed down to 3 countries that from my perspective, were feasible and livable based on a number of different factors. Number 1 factor being visa friendly, number 2 being infrastructure, number 3 being people, number 4 being activity wise and language. And Thailand checked every box. So I had taken 12 to 15 trips trans-Pacifically to Asia, and basically during that period learned about every country, the culture of every country, how business works, how life works. And I had a decision to make, which was A, go back to the US and insert myself back into, let's say, the subdivision lifestyle or the monotonous lifestyle, or stay in Asia.
Welcome to the Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. We are here in Phuket, Thailand, and we have an absolute legend of a guest coming on the podcast. Technically, this is our last episode. Now, I know you probably are going to see one with Nando, and we call that the last episode. This is the official last episode in Phuket before we take off to Hua Hin. Today, we're with Rich Gridley. This is an expat living in Thailand. He's been here for quite a few years, so we're going to be discovering about his whole life, transitioning from the U.S., to Singapore, and finally into the land of freedom, the land of smiles, Thailand itself. So we're going to jump right into that. Without further ado, this is Rich Gridley. First, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, as we kind of had a little discussion before, it's all about lifestyle on the podcast, and people are interested. I mean, what brought you here? So you're from the U.S., you lived in Singapore. We were discussing that story before, but let's go over that again. Paint the picture. U.S. to Singapore to Thailand, connect that all. How did this all come together?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's an interesting story. It's about a 25-year story that I'll condense into a smaller version. But essentially, I was working for a company out of the U.S., and my territory was APAC and PAC Rim, which is all of Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So I had taken 12 to 15 trips trans-Pacifically to Asia, and basically during that period learned about every country, the culture of every country, how business works, how life works, et cetera, et cetera. Then back in 2012, the company offered me an opportunity to move to Hong Kong for a year. So I picked up everything and I moved to Hong Kong. And at that point, I was more than addicted to Asia. I just love the lifestyle. I love the freedom. I love the people. I love the culture. I love the food, everything about it. Not that I did dislike the U.S. It's just that at that point, I felt like it was a better place to visit than to live. Then I went back to the U.S. for a year in 2013, and the same company offered me an opportunity to open up a footprint or an office in Asia. And at that point, I chose Singapore as the hub because it's very easy to get in and out of. The company was paying for everything, so cost wasn't an issue because obviously Singapore is very costly. Fast forward 5 years later, 2019, my contract ended with this company, and I had a decision to make, which was A, go back to the U.S. and insert myself back into, let's say, the subdivision lifestyle or the monotonous lifestyle, or stay in Asia and try to have some sort of passive income or use my retirement income to basically retire. And when I was doing my research, I knew a lot about every country, and I had it narrowed down to 3 countries that from my perspective, were feasible and livable based on a number of different factors. Number 1 factor being visa friendly, number 2 being infrastructure, number 3 being people, number 4 being activity wise and language, right? Connectivity, of course, right? And Thailand checked every box.
What were the other 2?
The other 2 were food.
I mean, the other countries.
Oh, the other countries. Oh, yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
The other countries were, I was looking at Bali, but Bali was a bit too difficult on the infrastructure side and a little bit too difficult on the, I guess, assimilating with the local culture because it is very different than the Christian culture, right? And then the third country was Japan, which is also, it's a beautiful country. I love it. I've been there over 200 times in my life, but it's a very
the language barrier there.
The language barrier is very difficult, and it's a very tight knit family atmosphere. So you wouldn't really have a lot of local friends because they're very into their family. It's work and it's family, right? And frankly, Tokyo or Yokohama, or wherever the choice would have been, is very expensive.
Very, yes.
Very expensive. And coming from New York, I really enjoy the weather as well. So Thailand really checked all of those boxes. Then I got here in 2019 and to Phuket, and I was automatically in love with it.
How did you choose Phuket? I mean, there's many options. Obviously, you have Koh Samui, probably not Koh Phangan, but Pattaya, Chonburi, Bangkok, even up in Chiang Mai. Why Phuket?
Well, I think, obviously Phuket has changed over the last 5 or 6 years, but at that point in time, and I wouldn't make the decision differently today, but at that point, had an international airport you could get everywhere. It had great schools. It had tennis facilities. It had gym facilities. It had the beach. Koh Samui doesn't have all those things. It's too small. Chonburi, not really my style. Bangkok, I just lived in a large city, basically my whole life. So it was like, this was the opportunity to embrace that beach lifestyle. And Phuket was absolutely perfect for that.
Were you planning to initially purchase or buy a home here, or kind of see if you give it a couple of years and see if you really wanted to live here?
I really wanted to live here. So at that point, I bought a Thai Elite visa, and I committed myself to 5 years, right? And I ended up buying 3 condominiums that I would look towards for passive income, okay? I was very hesitant at that point about buying a villa, just because I was nervous about setting up the Thai company, being an American citizen. It's a whole number of issues from a tax perspective and from a ownership perspective.
Yeah, because with the condos, they have like foreign quotas that you can actually own the condo.
Correct. You have a choice of freehold or leasehold, yes. Whereas with the villas, you can own the house, but you can't own the land, so you have a bit of exposure there.
Yeah, that's like
from my perspective.
With my girlfriend, wife being Thai, to be honest, I wouldn't be. It's a bit scary buying without having that freehold and that chenode essentially, because you don't know, anything could happen.
Anything can happen. I mean, an eminent domain, the government could just come and say, "Oh, sorry,"
exactly,
and you have no leverage.
Nothing.
So I was a bit nervous at that point. So I ended up renting villas. Moving several times, etc. So
now, did you come from Singapore with your family, and were you guys? I mean, you have two younger children at the moment as well. At which point were they traveling with you the entire time?
So they came to Thailand from Singapore.
From Singapore.
So they were basically almost 3 years old when we were in Singapore, and so they moved here when they were 3 years old.
So they're not going to notice any difference.
They don't know. And frankly, it's a wonderful lifestyle for children here as well. Mm-hmm. It's safe. People are friendly. They can eat the food. They're learning another language. They're interacting with several different nationalities. So it's a good experience for them, for their life.
You want to clap? Oh, okay. Okay. So now you've been here since 2019. Obviously, you've seen the development of Phuket, and you're renting a villa here now. The development has been quite crazy on the island. Do you see yourself being here for the next 5 years, 10 years, until your kids are maybe out of school?
That's a very difficult question to answer now, because it is a very dynamic position the island is on right now. Fortunately, at this point where I live, I'm very protected with perspective of traffic.
Yeah, you're outside of the Boat Avenue.
And garbage. My timing is when I'm not traveling for work, because I did take a new position with a private company, that I'm traveling all over Asia still Australia, New Zealand. But when I am in Phuket, my schedule is relatively flexible. Mm-hmm. So if I need to go play tennis, I can do it at 3 p.m. or 9 a.m. I don't have to go to Villa Market at 5 p.m. on a Friday. I can avoid these areas. And they have done a pretty good job with some new roads that have cut-throughs, especially the one from Villa Market to Pasak 8.
What, the one by the Woo Cafe, this big new road.
Yes. Yeah, yes. That's a lifesaver.
Yeah, and they finally opened it now.
They opened it.
Yeah.
And they were supposed to have a toll on it of 20 baht, but it's not in effect yet.
But
I would pay it.
I think everyone.
I would pay it. Yeah. I would pay for sure.
Going off on a tangent, I saw the Grab delivery guys.
Yeah.
There was a smart move. What they were doing when the gate was closed, and I came on my bike once because there was ways to get around it.
Right.
You can't. Put it this way, you can't get around. So the Grab delivery drivers for the food, they work in a team.
Oh, and they just hand the food?
They hand the food and the phone.
It's awesome.
So one guy sits on one side of the fence and the other guy sits on the other guy, and they work as a team.
It saves like 20 minutes.
And the headache of, this road, and you're off this road as well, the main road. People are flying up your ass when you want to turn on your road. It's a bit hectic, especially when you look back and it's like, oh shit, this is an airport van. Who knows how much whatever he's on, and
yeah, they don't care.
They don't care.
They'll run you off. And that's why I don't have a motorbike. I have a car.
Honestly, only. I was getting to that point here. If we weren't moving, I'm gonna get a car in Hua Hin because things are further away.
A little bit more spread out.
But it's riding a motorbike here. Like I fear for my life.
Yeah, it's
way more than it was 5 years ago.
It's like roulette.
Oh, it is. I'm going crazy. Like 50-40 now. I don't go home.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Getting back into it, you're making that decision, or you're still obviously that concept of, do I stay 5 or 10 years? What's kind of going through your head now?
So I think the at this point it's indefinite, unless it progressively gets worse, which I don't know. But I still think there are going to be places on the island that you can move to that you can kind of protect yourself from the downside of all the massive infrastructure. Like if you live in Surin or Bang Tao, I don't care what season it is, that's going to be a problem, right? But I'm fortunate enough to have a choice of where I live. I mean, my kids are in school near Blue Tree, so there's several different areas that I can access Blue Tree within 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, and hopefully they build that bridge. I think they're talking about it.
They have to.
Building a bridge from Blue Tree to Head Start, just so you can park there and people can walk over.
That would be awesome.
I think this is in the works now.
Yeah.
I would save a lot of traffic.
Absolutely.
And even living here, being up on this side of the island, I call it everything north of Bode Avenue, you're out of the shit.
That's correct, yeah.
And that's why we left Surin Beach.
Right.
Because the only places we could go on Friday was Kamala now.
Exactly.
You couldn't go anywhere.
No, you can't. I mean, it's an hour to Blue Tree. It was an hour to Blue Tree during high season. But it also, like, if you look at the positives of this growth, right? For me personally, right, I'm used to living in a large city, where a large city, the advantages are you have more restaurant options, you have more like tennis, you have more paddle options, more pickleball options, more gym options, more basketball options, all these sports-related options, Muay Thai, whatever you want to do, right? If you look at the last 18 months, that has basically tripled in what options you have. Prior to that, you had maybe 10 restaurants that you would go to. Now you have 30 or 40 that are available for you to go to.
And living in Phuket with that day-to-day flexibility, and for anyone out there that would be looking for the similar situation, what does your daily routine actually look like?
My daily routine is I try to play when I'm not traveling. I travel about 50% of the time. I try to play tennis in the morning for 3 days a week, and then I go back after tennis and I work for 3 or 4 hours. Then I'll have a cup of coffee and I'll go to the gym for an hour, and then that night I'll work 2 or 3 hours as well.
Yeah,
because
so
I'm working
plus
on
the
US
kids
time.
and dinner, like the day's packed.
Yeah, it's packed. It's always packed.
Is there anything from the U.S. that you miss? I mean, when you make these decisions to live in other countries, we do the pros and cons list and understand kind of like a cost-benefit analysis, let's call it. Is there something specific from the U.S. that we can't get in Thailand? Like, not in talking about food and that stuff, but like maybe just lifestyle.
Well, I think, all of that feeds into what lifestyle is, right? So for me, some of the things I used to enjoy in the States that I don't have here would be like a WhatsApp or a chat group where 4 o'clock on a Thursday I could send out a message, anybody available to do X, Y, or Z, which would be like, you want to play tennis? Do you want to go play basketball? Do you want to go do this? You'd get 20 replies. And you wouldn't have an issue getting a court, getting this. But because it's so limited here in Phuket, you really have to plan ahead. And frankly, I'm not very good at that because my life is very hectic and busy, right? So I really do miss that, like just being in the car at 4 o'clock and saying anybody free at 5, or just rolling up to the tennis club or rolling up to the basketball court and just signing my name on a list and playing.
Yeah, and it's hard in Phuket because everybody's schedule is flexible. So I might be traveling, you might be traveling. You get this group, you send a message, half the group's not even in the city.
Not even in town.
Yeah, I found this. I tried to get volleyball games going. We were playing tons of beach volleyball.
I did too. I love it.
We were trying. We'd had groups going, and the thing about the expat groups in Phuket, people are flaky.
They're very
flaky. Sorry, they are.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, you tell me to be somewhere, I'm there.
Right.
But we would get groups going, and like we'd have a volleyball group going, and like 20 guys would say they're coming, and like 5 would show up.
Exactly.
It's like, and then I just deleted the group. I'm like, I can't deal with this shit.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
So I found that is, especially, I lived in China and Taiwan, and they had that feel. We could get frisbee games going, basketball going. I was playing 3 or 4 times a week. I think I haven't played a sports team game in Phuket in 6 to 8 years. I don't even know, just because it's very challenging to get it going. And there's a lot of sport people here, but most of them are either at the gym or doing MMA or Muay Thai. And trust me, the guys doing MMA and Muay Thai, they're burnt out. They don't want to play basketball. They don't want to go.
Those guys are training 3-4 sessions a day, because they have all the different specialties they have to train. So I would say that's one of the things that I miss. The other thing is, like, if I was driving in my car, I would always have my gym bag in the car, right? Oh, there's a little bit of traffic up front. Look in Google Maps, where's the nearest LA Fitness? And I would just park in there, get my workout in, traffic's gone, go home. Right? Simple. Whereas here you just don't really have that. You have to kind of have a pretty set schedule, because you don't want to be at the gym when it's peak time. You don't want to be at the gym when it's family time. You want to be at the gym when you want to be at the gym, and you go to a specific gym. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have 4 gym memberships in Thailand, in Phuket, 2 tennis memberships and 2 gym memberships. That offers me more flexibility and variety.
So you can just decide wherever you are at that time, and you're not getting stuck in traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of options here. They have the Blue Tree one, the Delta down here.
Yeah.
I think the tennis court's up here.
They're everywhere.
The golf course has a tennis court as well.
Yeah, they're popping up everywhere, And some of the other things are just, I would say accessibility to, like, I know you mentioned not stores, but like there's Dick's Sporting Goods, which is like one of my favorite stores in the world, or PGA Tour, where you go in there and it's like, it's as big as Central, and it's just for a sports store.
Just to walk around, yeah.
You can just get whatever you need. Here it's like, you get very limited selection, especially for Farang, because our XL is different than their XL.
Yeah, and then you pretty much just have Decathlon, and it's all the quality's just Chinese.
Yeah, it's not Nike, it's not Adidas, it's not Under Armour. It's just a local brand.
Yeah, so the people coming from the U.S. maybe looking to move to Thailand, you'd recommend probably stock up on certain sports gear before coming out here.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things about living overseas is you really should make an effort to go back to your home country at least once or twice a year. Whether it's, because those are the factors you have to take into consideration, is you're going to be away from your family, right? That's one of the big factors of consideration, especially with me. My parents are getting older. I have niece and nephews. I have a sister. I have in-laws. I have all this stuff. They're getting older. So, you really need to have a connection back to whatever your motherland is, right? And then when you do that, that's when you stock up on the things you can't get here. Mm-hmm. It's fairly easy to do that.
Well, for someone traveling a lot, it's probably quite easy. For other people like myself, I find that flight is just so... for Toronto's like, you're talking 30 hours plus door to door.
No,
it's hard to wrap your head around it.
I've done it. I've done those flights probably 1,000 times in my life.
What's your flight protocol?
It's interesting. So I've taken the Singapore to New York flight, which is 19 and a half hours. I've taken that probably, 20 times. My philosophy is it's all about net sleep, right? Just get as much sleep as you possibly can. Who cares about time zones or any of that other stuff? Because it's going to be cumulative in your recovery time, right? And then I usually take like some relaxing pill or something like that, just to get myself chilled out, and then I can mentally commit to I'm going to be in that chair of course I can get up and down, whatever. I'll be in that chair for 19 hours, then I'm going to have a 4-hour layover, and then I'm going to have another 5-hour flight, right? You just kind of you wrap your head around it, and then it's much easier to handle. When you build up all that anxiety, like you had just mentioned, 30 hours, it's very difficult to get past that. So leading up to that trip, you're going to be stressed out for 5 to 10 to 15 days.
Yeah.
You just kind of need to relax your way into it and just say, look, it's not that bad. It's actually, you can catch up on some movies, you can catch up on some podcasts. Most of them have Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, that's the difference. Now a lot of them do have the Wi-Fi, so you can get some work done.
It's not bad.
You're flying business class, I'm assuming?
Yeah, everything international.
Yeah.
Over 4 hours.
Do you have like an accessory go-to? Are you wearing earplugs? Do you have compression socks, headphones, neck rest, a handful of Valium? What's going on?
Yeah. I would say I do the clonazepam, which is a very, very low dose anti-anxiety pill, and then I'll go to the lounge and have 2 or 3 glasses of wine, and then I'm super chill, super chill. I don't do the neck pillow. I don't do any of that stuff. I think that's a pretty basic protocol for me.
You don't do compression socks?
No, I do. I do 325 milligrams of aspirin.
Does that help? Like I find I get
that thins out your blood.
I get a lot of water retention in my feet.
Well, that's tough. That's edema, right? Yeah. So that's tough, right? The aspirin could help that, but the aspirin's more for the DVT, because that's a big risk factor on these long flights, or the deep vein thrombosis. So what the aspirin does is to thin that out. And to be frank with you, that's what drinking does too. Okay, the edema or the water retention, that's just because you've got to drink. For you personally, you probably need to drink 3x what you would normally drink in water 2 or 3 days before the flight. And compression socks should help that.
Yeah, I would wear compression socks just so when I landed, like my feet didn't feel like they're going to fall off.
And you got to get up. I mean, you got to get up. Like, you got to try to get up every 2 to 3 hours if you're not sleeping.
Oh, I usually take 3 Valium and I wake up 20 hours later.
Yeah, I don't.
And it's a mess. It's like
and that's the thing. Like, because I've done it for so many years. Like, I've done it for almost 25 years. That was my recipe in the beginning. Was I would take an Ambien, but then I'm like, I'm so out of control. Like, I don't know what's going on. Is somebody in my shit, in my bag? Is my passport? Where is it? Where's this? Where's my cell phone? Because you're a bit disoriented when you take those hardcore. So I kind of scaled it back to, I take a super light anti-anxiety pill, 2 or 3 glasses of wine, eat the dinner, fall asleep, wake up, I'll have a glass or 2 of wine, watch a little bit of a movie, fall asleep, and then you're there. And it's not that bad. So what I always tell people is, look, the flights that I hate are between 4 and 8 hours. I cannot stand those flights because they feed you, you sleep for 1 or 2 hours, they feed you again, and then you're there. So you're getting almost no sleep, right? Unless if it's a daytime flight, it's better. But if it's a red-eye flight, it's horrible. I personally prefer 14 hours plus.
Jeez.
I love it
Yeah.
because I know I can get settled. I can get at least the net, like 6 to 8 hours sleep, and then I can kind of slowly wake myself up. I feel good when I'm there. And, and to be honest with you, like a lot of people, when you tell them you fly business class, they minimize that it's difficult. But frankly, it's not that much easier than flying like let's say a premium economy or economy exit row.
Well, you get the leg room at least.
You get a little leg room. I mean, that's really, you get a little better food, but they feed you too much. So you feel like shit after, you get off the plane.
Yeah.
You drink too much because you feel like it's included.
I usually, when I show up at the airport, I try to get exit row.
Yep.
I'll just say my knee hurts. If I can't get it at the airport, I upgrade to business.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I can get exit, I'm good. I find because of my feet and the water retention, I need to and my knee, I constantly need to be
under
like,
your knee, right?
I can't be, if my knee's like that for 20 minutes, it's excruciating.
Yeah, and that's what I would recommend to people is like, if you're taking these flights 10 times a year and you're paying for them yourself, cost effectively, business class is really not an option, right? But if you're taking one of these flights per year, focus on your health. right? And your well-being, and invest in that. Because at the end of the day, people spend money on a lot of stupid shit, right? So you maybe allocate that money you would be spending on stupid shit to something that's actually going to have a long-term health benefit, which is put yourself in premium economy, put yourself in business class. Yes, it's more, but save for it. You're going to know, you're going to take that trip 12 months in advance.
And that's if you're an American too, the value, if you get these Amex cards, you get, I think it's 4x the points on for air miles. We get that because we spend so much on advertising.
Right.
So actually by spending all this cash on advertising for the business, we get like, if we want, almost like rack up like 4 flights a year.
Exactly. Same thing. Like I have the Chase Rewards, and I have the Amex Platinum, and I have, Marriott points, Delta points,
But that's
Singapore
only
Airline points.
American cards. No other cards in the world get those points.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like, if you're in Canada, try to get an Amex card, try to get a
Right.
Chase card, because just purely on the points,
It's amazing.
if you're spending for your business X amount of, like,
Right.
if you're spending 60 to 100 grand US on advertising, let's say, for your business, that's like 2 flights to like Thailand round trip every year.
It's $20,000.
Easy.
Easy.
So like
Yes.
that's the value of those cards. Okay, transitioning back to like integrating into Thai society. Personally, for me, because I have a Thai girlfriend, I've starting to make more Thai friends through her friends. But before that, I didn't, and I found it can be quite of a challenge to be really integrated into that Thai society, gaining these Thai friends. Do you find any challenges for yourself? Are you predominantly with expats or Thais or both?
I mean, that's a good question. My time is so limited that I have a plethora of acquaintances because I do a lot of active things, right? I maybe only have 3 or 4, let's say, friends that I would say, let's go grab dinner, let's go do this, whatever. Most of them are like, we have mutual friends like Pete.
Yep.
I consider him a friend, but do we hang out every day or once a week? No. Still a friend. He's an expat. Thai guys, I play tennis, so I play a lot with the tennis Thai pros, right? Those guys, I don't have lunch with those guys, but we have a great time together, right? And we can mesh our cultures together, but they're also very nuclear, right? So if they have a family, any free time they have, they choose to spend it with their family, which I can completely appreciate. And I don't want to take that from them by pressuring them into doing something with me when I know they don't necessarily want to. They prefer to do it with their family, right? So to answer your question, I have a lot of acquaintances that are both Thai. I would say nationality-wise, I have a ton of Thai nationals that I'm acquaintances / friends with, if you want to call it that. Ton of Russians that I'm friends with / acquaintances with, and then a couple Canadians on the island that I know that it's so easy to talk to them. Very few Americans here.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit older Americans that are here on retiring, or they're doing some real estate ventures or stuff like that. But
Or they're in Pattaya.
But it's also the tax implication, the double tax, that makes it difficult for Americans to live here.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because any income they make in Thailand is taxed in the U.S. as well. Yep. So it's a bit, you're cutting 40% off the top of whatever you do here. So what's the point of doing stuff here?
Yeah, unless you're coming here to retire. But
unless you're coming here to retire and you already have a income from the U.S. that's coming in.
Did this differentiate living in Singapore and integrating into that society? Did you find you had more friends than acquaintances, or was it a completely different lifestyle?
It was completely different because, Singapore, they have, obviously Chinese, they have Singlish, which is the Singapore English, and then they have English. So they have 3 main languages. So it's very easy to communicate. And that's why they call Singapore Asia Light, because it's very easy for Westerners to assimilate into that culture. So I did have quite a few more friends in Singapore, right? Because of the language barrier was not there or non-existent.
And also the lifestyle there is
very similar.
different.
It's very similar to, like, let's say a large city.
Were you driving
US.
a lot or using taxis more there?
I used the MRT everywhere and taxis because I lived in CBD, so I had no reason. Like, my gym was in Central Business District. My office was in my condo, so basically I was just going to Changi, going home, doing my thing, going to the Tanglin Club for tennis, and then, Didn't really go to Orchard much, just kind of stayed in my, let's say, bubble within a bubble. And that is the difference with Singapore than, let's say, Thailand. Thailand, you have a lot more variety of things to do, a lot more places to go. Singapore, you're basically living on a tiny, tiny island with a ton of people, and your bubble is within that bubble. So you're kind of doing the same thing every day, which gets a bit monotonous. So what they say about Singapore, and I'm not bashing Singapore, but they say the two best things about Singapore are landing in Changi Airport and departing from Changi Airport.
Living in Singapore as well, as it is kind of, well, it is living in a city. You're able to catch up with friends after work because restaurants are nearby. Everyone's kind of coming out of the same office building. Did you find yourself going to dinners and lunches with friends a lot more living there?
I would say I did happy hour a bit, where in Thailand I don't do happy hour. You know, it was because there you could just walk. There was actually a very good friend of mine. Like I had maybe 4 or 5 really good friends in Singapore, and one of my friends had a bar, which was at the base of the adjacent building to where I lived.
Yeah.
So it was so easy to just go down there, grab a burger, have a couple beers, take the elevator back up, and then, you know, spend time with the family or work or do whatever. Very, very easy. Lunches, you know, I didn't do as many lunches because I wasn't working in an office. I was working out of home. So I was controlling my consumption of what I would eat. So I was very, like, disciplined with my diet in Singapore.
Would you ever see yourself going back there? I mean, it's great for kids. People love to raise families there. Also, at a certain age, let's say after 8 or 10, the education's obviously much better there than Phuket. I mean, trying to be pretty objective there, most people would agree with that.
Sure.
Would that be a consideration of maybe when your kids get a little bit older, going back to Singapore?
I don't think, for me personally, that's not an option on the table. I think in order to live in Singapore, you need to be sponsored by a company because the rent is so high. It's, you know, anywhere between 10 and 30,000 US dollars per month.
For a family, easily.
Yeah. Right? So you can do that here for a fraction of the price, right? So if you're not on an expat package, school is 3 times the cost. You're absolutely correct. It is considered internationally more esteemed and more established. But, I mean, does that really make a difference in the long term, right? Unless you have like a child prodigy.
Yeah, I mean,
to go to a school. But I know for a fact that I will never live in Singapore again.
If you're funding it yourself,
it's not.
You'd be spending just on a family, what, 300,000 to 400,000 US close.
Before you left the house.
Before you left.
You know?
Yeah,
that's the thing. Before you even left the house.
Yeah, because it's a bit different if it's just you.
Yeah.
But when you got a family, you got wife, you got kids, they have school. I mean, I'm assuming school in Singapore is maybe 30 to 50,000 US a year for the good schools.
It's a little bit less than that.
I thought there was about $1 million baht.
Well, that's for UWC. So UWC and BIS are the highest.
Correct.
Then you have that second tier, which is Head Start and KIS.
Yeah.
We have our kids at Head Start.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good school. And I actually like it better than the vibe at BIS and UWC. And because they opened up the Chern Lake campus, it makes it so convenient logistically.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that have been on the podcast and their kids, they were going to BIS and now they've transferred to UWC. But a lot of the people, even with their kids transferring to UWC, they're moving up there because.
Exactly. And I don't want to live up there.
You have 2 options. Okay, you can live up there. That's fine. Your kids get to school, or you live down here and you need to hire a driver. Now the issue is now your kid's in a van 2 hours a day. Yep. So, I mean, it's not your problem, but that's 2 hours a day of your kid's life. They're in a van an hour going each way every day. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I mean, and frankly, that's what my children did before they opened up the Chern Lake campus, because we had them at the central campus for Head Start. And it was crazy. I mean, they're leaving the house at 6:30 in the morning and getting back at 5 at night.
Yeah, it's like
what is that? You know, it's not fair to the kid. You know, and then you get such small quality time with your kids, and they're exhausted. You know, so having it close by is a major factor, and I don't want to live near UWC.
No.
You know, there's nothing up there except for Thanyapura, which I go up there once or twice a week maximum. But if you're up there, you're stuck.
There's no restaurants up
There's nothing up there. There's nothing. You have to drive down anyway. So
yeah, it's a nice area, but again, there's nothing up there, and
Right.
you'll be in the traffic trying to get down to Boat Avenue as well.
yeah, because that one right turn, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
You know, to get onto the Pasak.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
There's a lot of great things living in Thailand. I mean, the culture, the food, the people, and I think a lot of pieces of content and podcasts, we love to talk well about Thailand. Is there anything that you would maybe warn friends from before moving to Thailand that you weren't aware of that you wish you knew before coming?
I mean, I think my situation's a bit more unique than most expats moving over here because I had been here so many times. So I already kind of knew what the nuances were, and I was ready to accept them for what they were, right? Which are, you know, some of the things that I would tell people to look out for. Culturally, when a Thai person says yes, it may not actually be yes, right? Because they're the type of people that want to make you happy. It's a land of smiles. They want to make sure you're happy, and they get nervous with the language barrier, just like anybody else would. Like if I'm in China and I'm trying to speak Chinese, I'm uncomfortable, right? Because I don't speak Chinese that well, right? So they're under that same pretext where they're going to say yes. So if you're at a restaurant ordering something, make sure 100% they understand what you want.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good lesson. Especially it's funny in Thailand, like they never take notes, and you're like, there's no way you remember. I just told you like 10 different things.
Exactly.
I don't know why they don't take notes. It's very strange.
And that goes back to if you're with a group, right? Don't order everything at once. Piecemeal order it. Let them get the drinks in.
Yeah.
Let them come back, right? Be patient. Be very patient. In Thailand, if you get upset or you show any sort of anger or emotion, that's going to be the exact opposite result of what you want. That's not going to get you what you want. If you're very nice and you're very forgiving and you're understanding and you're friendly, which you should be anyway, because we're all human beings, right? But it's even more prevalent in Thailand, in my opinion.
Yeah, you really have to be patient. It's especially green people coming to Asia for the first time. There's a reason why in the U.S. waiters and waitresses make so much in tips. They're not making money in tips here. So the guy working, your waitress at the Thai restaurant or even a normal, like a nice restaurant here, they might only be getting 15,000, max 20,000 baht a month.
Yep.
So it's a good idea to be patient with them, understand their position as well. And to be honest, a lot of the times you go with a group of friends, I'm happy just to get my meal. Because sometimes it won't even come. Nothing comes. You're like,
Nothing comes.
Hey, I ordered. What's going on here?
Exactly.
And how many times you get something, maybe you order like a pad krapao or maybe you order a tom yum soup and a pad thai comes. So you're like, oh, I like that. I'll eat that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, don't come here and complain and send it back.
No.
You just got to
have to be flexible.
You got to roll with the
Like
punches.
if you're at a 5-star restaurant and you order a steak that's well done and you want a medium rare, you can send it back. Yeah. But like you said, if it's a local Thai restaurant or semi-local Thai restaurant, just deal with it. And frankly, American culture is to tip. I think, based on what you said, I agree 100%. Their wage per day is 300 baht to 500 baht, which equates to 12 to 15,000 baht per month. If you get really exceptional service, how much is 20 baht worth to you? Because I can guarantee to them, it's worth about 10 or 20 times what it's worth to you. So you're going to get the largest smile on their face just by giving them a small amount that means nothing to you but may mean the world to them. So understand that you're in a semi-third world country.
Yeah, no, I'm always tipping. I always tip big on Grab. I used to be a delivery boy when I was like 16, so I know that feeling of getting a tip.
I used to be a waiter, a busboy, all this stuff. Like, everybody puts their pants on the same way. Like, we're all people, right? So it's like, treat people with respect, regardless of what their profession is, because in Thailand, you've got, people that are just scratching to have a piece of, to have a fraction of rice.
Yeah.
And then you have other people who are so wealthy, right? So just treat everyone the same.
Yeah, I've seen it at like Surin Beach where you get. The problem is the tourists here don't really understand the denomination of the currency.
Correct.
So when they're haggling, if the lady comes to you with 3 waters and she says 100 baht,
Right.
like an American dollar, 180 is like, that's a big saving.
Right.
So they can't process that. They'll be like 100 baht. Well, I'll give you 80, but they don't understand
Right.
the denomination. It's like, that's literally like 60 cents.
So back to your question, right? Understand the denomination if you're going to move here.
Yeah.
Understand what the locals are making, right? And the first most important thing is understand that you are a guest in their country. This is not your country. This is their country. So respect their rules, their culture. That to me is most important.
Yeah, it's to be a Thai resident or get a Thai passport is almost impossible.
It's almost impossible. I
In
think it is impossible.
In Canada, you just show up with $1 million and they're handing out passports. I think America's much more tougher with the green card stuff. About that living in Thailand, the ability, if you wanted a Thai passport, or to be, not just assimilated in the country, but kind of be recognized as Thai. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like the fact that they really are holding the strength of their culture?
Yeah, I kind of, I don't really have an opinion on it, because I don't want to be a Thai citizen, so I don't feel that resentment that I can't, right? And I'm not mad at them because they want to hold their culture. That's their choice, right? Every country is completely different, and if that's the way that the Thai government and the Thai people want it, that is perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, no, I love what they're doing here. I love the fact that, like, you have places like the UK where, anyone can cross the border and come in overseas and they deny them. Try coming on a boat to Phuket as an immigrant and getting off and see where they send you.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that, open borders even exist.
It's crazy.
It's crazy because here I'm like, look, I'm going to live here legally, right? If you want to live in a foreign country, go for it, but live there legally. Right, and one of the other things I would give for a point of advice, let's say someone that's on the fence on whether or not they're going to move here, you always have to give it a bit of a trial run. And I know you probably, all of your guests have said that, but it really is true. A 30, 60, 90-day trial run, so you can understand what to expect. And the flexibility that the Thai government allows with the 60-day tourist visa now and the 30-day extension to 90, that's a godsend. That really is an opportunity to kind of, test the waters, see if you like it. But that being said, I personally would guarantee that most people will love it here.
In terms
There's
of
not
freedom,
a lot to not like. To be honest with you,
I think here there's more freedom here than back home.
The pros so far outweigh the cons from a lifestyle perspective. And a cost of living perspective, which feeds into the lifestyle perspective. It's, there's no other country in Asia, in my opinion, that offers what Thailand does.
And when you came over into Thailand and even in Asia with your wife, has she had positive experiences from living here as well? She's enjoying it?
Yeah, she likes it. She loves it.
Because there's a lot to do for women as well. In terms of they have the gym. There's
Right.
great food out there. Driving's probably a bit of a challenge, both male or female, just because we're on the other side of the road. The way that they move in and out is complete.
Right.
There's no right of way.
Right.
There's forget about the zebras or whatever you want to call them, the crossing paths. They're kind of just
Right.
fictitious. So I think a lot of this stuff you got to take into consideration as well. Have you had friends approach you from the U.S. or just outside of Thailand with questions of potentially moving to Thailand, and how do you deal with them?
First of all, I'm honest, right, with everything they would expect. But frankly, to your point, it's just too far for most people to consider. Especially people that are like, let's say, between the age of 30 and 50 that have grandparents that are getting older. They may have children. That's very difficult to move children over. They have parents that are getting older, right? And to make that commitment to move 24 to 30 hours away from your family is a very difficult thing to do. My situation allowed me to do that because I was already in Asia. And my point when I moved from Singapore to Thailand was, if we chose option A, which was to move back to the U.S., the chances of us ever getting back to Asia were probably less than 1%. So that's why we decided to stay.
What about, I've thought about like Costa Rica. I think it's probably the more safer place in Central America. Mm-hmm. I have friends that live in Mexico, and they've lived in Thailand, and they told me, they're like, yeah, it's not really that safe here. In terms of, if you go out to certain bars at night, like, you can't just walk home. You got to take a taxi. I've thought about Costa Rica. The cost of living is about 30% more than Thailand.
Right.
But it's the fact that you get a little bit closer to home with a similar environment. Have you ever considered maybe places like that?
Nope. No. I'm really in love with Asia. Yeah. I mean, I love it here. You know, and I love the fact that, you know, if you look at Thailand on a map, right? If you do end up moving to Thailand, you're not really moving just to Thailand. You're moving to Southeast Asia. Okay, so you have the option to go to all these places that are 1 hour flight, 1.5 hour flight. You know, you've got Vietnam, you've got Cambodia, you've got Laos, you've got Myanmar, you've got Malaysia, you've got Singapore, you've got Indonesia, you've got Taiwan, Philippines, you know, Hong Kong, China, you know, and those places are so easy to get to. So if you look at it like you're just going to be moving to Thailand and you don't leave Thailand, it's a bit daunting. But if you look at it like, okay, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, right? I was living in the southeast of the U.S. That's kind of how I look at it, right? So if you move to Thailand, you have access to all these other cultures as well. So you're really going to be able to broaden your perspective on how other people live and culture, which is, to me, a very valuable asset to have in your life.
Yeah, and you're able to, I mean, not just to mention that, but the flights are so cheap.
They're so cheap, and you don't have to book them 3 weeks in advance.
Flying Toronto to Montreal is so expensive, people drive. And it's only like 600 kilometers away.
Yeah, it's like almost $1,000 US or 600 to $1,000 US.
You could fly here to Singapore round trip, what, $250?
Easy.
Yeah.
That's if you flew like Scoot or Singapore Airlines.
Yeah.
If you fly like, you know, Air Asia or something like that, or it's even cheaper. But even to go to like, you could literally do a week in Cambodia or a week in La Prabang, Laos, right? And it would cost you less than 1 day in Singapore.
Yeah, that's the big benefit here. No, the ability to go to these other South Asian countries, that's the value of using Thailand like a hub as well.
Correct.
And as long as you've done your paperwork, and that's, I won't go too much back into that. When you see the stuff in the U.S., like, well, these immigrants, they're getting kicked out. It's like, just do the fucking paperwork. We have to do this living here, so we get it when we look back on it. But if you're doing your visas right and you're living right in Thailand and you don't piss anyone off, you'll love this place. And you can get on a plane, you can go visit anywhere, you can come back in, life's gravy. Much more different in places. Canada's a bit more challenging just because it's just too expensive to fly. Just before we wrap it up, I think it would be interesting to touch upon dealing with medical bills in Thailand, as we can discuss your story with your tooth. I think this is probably a bit of a shock for people moving here they should be aware of. The one disadvantage of Thailand is the high cost of medical care. And yes, you should have some sort of medical insurance, but the dental's never included.
Right.
Since you come from that background, you can probably explain it quite well. Talk a little bit, if any expats watching this from the U.S. looking to come to Thailand, explain the whole medical care system here in terms of like cost and what they should really prepare for.
Yeah, sure. No, that's a good question. It's I actually look at it as a better situation than living in the U.S. Okay, and I'll explain how. Right. Number one is you should have some sort of blanket, you know, emergency insurance. Absolutely. I don't care who you are, if you're the healthiest person on the planet or you're the unhealthiest. You should have that, right? And and that should kick in at a point to where you can afford anything below that. Okay? And the odds are, if you are a healthy person and you don't have any sort of tragic event like a motorbike accident, you know, or some health issue, right? It's going to be much cheaper from a healthcare perspective because, for example, if you go to a clinic here, it's less than $10 for medication for normal ailments that you're going to have, which are like, let's say, bronchitis, a bacterial infection, anything that's happens, a flu, anything that happens, right? It's like $10 to see the doctor and to get the medication, right? Then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I kind of know what I have, right? Because the symptoms are the symptoms, right? I feel a little bit of bronchitis coming on. Now I can just go to the pharmacy and spend $4 for a Zithromax, Z-Pack, and I don't even have to see the doctor, right? So for your basic healthcare, it is extremely inexpensive. And I wouldn't even worry about it, okay? However, you do have to have a plan B if something tragic happens, right? And that's where the insurance kicks in.
You break an arm or
something like that, right?
If a cancer arrives, anything, anything that could require a surgery.
That's correct.
This is where it gets quite expensive.
Yes. The hospital stay is expensive. The care is expensive at the private. You don't have the option of public, right? But if you do have an insurance that's either in your home country that has reciprocity with Thailand, or you buy a safety package here because they do have healthcare options available for expats.
Yeah.
But you just have to make sure when you do your budget, you look at that in your budget.
Does you have an American health care insurance? Does that give you coverage in Thailand?
I mean, it could, but I don't ever use it because I have a high deductible, and fortunately, I haven't had any major events that cost a ton of money. That I've had to access the insurance with.
Now,
I just pay it out of pocket. It's so cheap. My healthcare expenses for the year, I would think all in for my entire family are $1,000.
Yeah, I've had a few trips to the Phuket hospital, but never anything major. I even had a motorbike accident, just scraped a knee, but that was probably 10,000 baht.
It's not much.
I remember I had a ringing in my ear, went to the hospital there, saw an ear specialist in 20 minutes, and it was like 5,000 baht. Good luck doing that anywhere else in the world.
And you can get the appointment.
I just walked in.
From Canada, like you
6 months later.
Oh,
but it's free in Canada.
Yeah, and if you're on maintenance medication, like let's say I have acid reflux, right?
Okay.
That's not going away, okay? In the States, every 90 days, I have to pay $60 to go visit with the doctor for them to write me a prescription for something that's a chronic condition that I have the same medication. So I just wasted 3-4 hours of my day. I had to get the appointment. Then I have to go to the pharmacy and pick up the prescription, wait for them to call it in. For something in Thailand, I can just go and get that same medication for $6.
Yeah, you just pop into the pharmacy and it's all over the counter there.
It's easy.
Yeah, they're pretty flexible as well.
It's fantastic.
Talking about your tooth, and I think that if that's okay to discuss. Yeah. There is a hidden cost there, and I know people who have had dental work done where they've had a very similar issue. I think he had to get like 3 or 4 root canals, and it probably cost 300,000 to 400,000 baht. Yep. He had medical coverage. It doesn't matter if you're in Thailand and you're with I think AIS and you have medical coverage. It never includes dental coverage. I think this is a hidden cost here. You should be prepared for something like that. Cost him 300,000 to 400,000. Just explain a little bit of what you're going to be doing for your tooth exactly.
Right. So I have dental insurance in the U.S., but even dental insurance in the U.S. has a max out, and it pays a percentage of, let's say, 50% of root canal, 40% of crown. Like, it's all this crazy stuff because they know that happens frequently, right? So insurers are very careful with how much outlay of cash they're going to have, right? So in my opinion, if I was to utilize the insurance, dental insurance that I had in the States, not even including the travel to get back there to use it, it's still going to be cheaper in Thailand, right? So that's kind of how you have to look at it. Like, dental work is expensive. Doesn't matter if you have insurance or not, you're still going to pay out of pocket. And I do think that being in Thailand, your net outlay of cost, regardless of what your issues is or are, is going to be higher than if you had insurance and got it done in your country. That's just my opinion as an American. I don't know what it is as a Canadian.
Canada, it's quite cheap. Most companies will cover you with dental.
See, they won't. Like, for us, it's like, I pay $15, $20 per month, but I have maximum coverage of $1,000. What's that going to do?
Nothing.
It's nothing.
Yeah. So this this dental work here, the cost is probably you're getting, it's like probably an abscess tooth.
Yeah, it's abscess tooth, so they have to pull it. So it's going to be like 50,000 baht, 60,000 baht maximum.
Yeah, and I think that even if you're a fighter here, a Muay Thai fighter, MMA fighter, you have dental problems, your gym's not going to cover you. I think the dental is probably the biggest hitting cost here if you have something serious that you have to deal with.
The other thing too is like, you know, in Thailand, it's all about choices, right? You can live a 5-star lifestyle, and you can live a 1-star lifestyle. You have that ability to do that, right? I'm fortunately in my position. I'm going to Bangkok Hospital to get this done. I could have easily shopped it around, right? Like if I was in my 20s and like I had the same thing done, I had very limited funds, and I could probably get it for a third of that cost. So don't look at the cost that I'm telling you, because that's my choice, right? You can make cheaper choices, and I'm not saying it's going to be worse care. It's just not the same choice that I made.
Yeah, less risk, let's say, going on with that. Okay, just before we're going to wrap it up in a minute, 'cause it's probably been about an hour now. See, it flies by. Okay, just before I wrap it up, I guess, well, it's not like we're not promoting anything for Rich here in terms of social media. I think more or less, if anyone wants to leave comments in our section there, hey, if you're back up in Hua Hin, we'll try to answer those. Maybe I'll throw Rich in the comments section. He can
I can
go after
answer
those.
any questions anyone has. You know,
but in terms of social, I'm assuming you're not big on social media or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I'm on Instagram, Facebook.
Well, do you want people to know it?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay. So then I'm going to pass this big camera with the big lens just to you. So if anyone does want to reach out, maybe they have a couple questions about living in Thailand. No weirdos and no trolling either. Reach out to Rich is just going to explain to you if you want to hit him up on Instagram and throw him a few questions. So just this big camera here.
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is richgrids_adventures. You can message me anytime if you have any questions about Thailand, restaurants, gyms, places to live, condos, villa pricing, anything that's on the ground here in Thailand. I've been here so many times, I can easily help you, and I am a person that I'm always willing to help other people.
Well, let's hope he doesn't regret that as 10,000 DMs coming. Okay, well, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. Absolutely. You are the official last guest in Phuket. So maybe you'll be the first in Hua Hin. Let's see.
Last but least.
The last but least. Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed that. I mean, a lot of this information we discussed before the podcast. For us, it's so basic, and I'm sure a lot of people out there, it's a lot of new information. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments. We'll try our best to answer those as well. That ends another episode of the Fruiting Body Podcast, the last one in Phuket. So come join us. The next one you'll probably be seeing will be out of the Hua Hin Villa studio. I'm not quite sure. Okay, we're out. Thanks a lot.